Okay, we are at episode 8, Turned Taquete. And its journey was a fun, wonderful journey too, which started with another person in our community, David Schultz, who had posted this or sent us a picture of how he had been working with Turned Taquete using Parrot, the graphic from Parrot from way back in season 2. And I said, I want to be just like David, except I'm going to use Parrot the way it was. So remember Parrot? I don't know why I didn't put this in the episode, but let's step over to this side of the table. Way back in season 2, we did this sample, which was called Fibonacci with gradation. However, it has since morphed into the everyone refers to this as parrot, simply because the colors were chosen from a parrot. You know, look at all those glorious colors that come with parrot. And we wove it 2 different ways, or we talked about weaving it 2 different ways. It's all about gradation, incremental numbers, 10, 20, 30, 50, 80, using Fibonacci to come up with those numbers. 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, on and on and on, but multiplying them by 10, and we have something else to play with. Anyway, in some of the configurations, our big wide stripe was the apricot, and the narrowest stripe was the peacock. And then in other configurations, the large stripe was peacock, and the narrow stripe was apricot. We played with all kinds of repetitive sequences in here. This one, we're going to see this brought forward to our Turned Taquete. We learned so much about division of space, the power of a zinger, repetitive sequences back in season 2, and we've been using them throughout all of the years. Striping, little stripings, and then taking that same warp. And this was where I introduced clasped weft to you. And this is the same warp, but the weft now is 22 silk, and that clasping is happening right down this stripe. So 2 shuttles. It's clasping here to put these stripes in. So for the most part, it's this color of silk going from selvage to selvage, Ariel's voice going from selvage to selvage. But right here, this little line ends here. It doesn't come across here. And you can see when you go in close, really close, you can see the structural difference in these places. Like right there, you can really see it. That's a double pick of a fine thread, of a fine black thread, clasping with the Ariel's voice right here. And every time you see one of those horizontal black lines coming to the center black line, all those little black dots, that's where the clasp happened. And look how clean it is. So it didn't take long to master that. And for a 2-shaft weaver or a 4-shaft weaver, that's a pretty cool technique to be able to create a graphic that's that clean and exciting with just 4 shafts. Extraordinary drape. It's 8-2 cotton and 22 silk for the weft. Absolutely beautiful. So when I saw David using Parrot for his Turned Taquete, I thought, well, heck, I am too, but I'm going to use the original colors. So this was a fun episode because we really got to explore what Turned Taquete is. We started out learning about why drafts get turned. So we do that. We turn the draft. We started with monk's belt and turned that draft and made it into from a 2 shuttle weave, a monk's belt, which was a 2 shuttle weave, into a 1 shuttle weave. The weft becomes the warp when we turn the whole draft. When we take this and go, because that's what we did. And now our warp is alternating colors and our weft is 1 shuttle all the way down, and a solid color. That's super cool. Well, let's look at how the tie-up works. We had a great close-up look at that. And then we went to see what Turned Taquete was. And Turned Taquete is closely related to summer and winter. So we started with a summer and winter draft, and we turned it. And we were weaving it, though, as a weft-faced summer and winter. And when we take a weft-faced summer and winter, and we go turn, 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 and turn it upside down, all of a sudden, what was once our straight draw treadling is now our straight draw threading, and we have two nice tidy blocks on the side to manipulate two different looks. This is more warp predominant, this is more weft predominant. Then we added the color and weave. So that's where the color and weave comes into this section. If we don't have alternating colors in our warp and Turned Taquete, we don't get our blocks. So we learned how to overlay that, get all those beautiful blocks. We learned that structurally we have a dark and a light, or the two pairs of opposing colors are always going to have floats in them, and that creates a little problem called shifty little fellas. We looked at our shifty little fellas in all kinds of places. We had to make a decision whether we liked them, whether we didn't like them. If we could change our set, would it affect them? We explored all those things. It's a real good, hefty, hardy look at Turned Taquete. And then we got to our project, which was all based on our wonderful parrot or Fibonacci with gradation from season 2. And let's have a look at them. This is a great lesson to really, truly, truly understand and own this structure. And we had an awesome show and tell for this. I wish I had all those pieces. I don't. They're gone. Anyway, let's have a look through. I wove every single towel with a solid color. So I'm going to pick them up one by one like so and hold them up. Yes. So this was woven entirely using the two blocks. That's all I have to play with are the two blocks, all in navy. This was woven at 24 ends per inch and 24 picks per inch. Okay, big, huge, honkin' graphic on a straight draw threading. Here, this sort of looks like one of the pieces that we did back in season 2. You can see all that, those shifty little fellas there. Look at that navy blue stripe right in the middle, right there. See them shifting out the top? You never know when it's going to happen. And then all of a sudden it disappears. They're shifty. Shifty little fellas. It adds something to it. It's the unpredictability of it I have embraced. And I like it. We had a good chit chat about set. Here again, I'm changing the color. This time on this piece, I am using the fuchsia for the entire piece. Another graphic, playing with the two blocks, division of space, rules, always rules the game, repetitive sequences, rule the game in my life. This is hot pink as the weft. And you really, really see those shifty fellas on that navy in the center. Gosh, look at them there. It seems to me the stronger the contrast, the more you see them. But I say that, but then when we look to where we're going over these lighter colors out here, mind you, they're closer in value. I don't know. I guess there's one possibility I haven't really explored, and that is maybe that center section had a slightly different tension, but it's there in some pieces and not in others. And I know that when I wound this warp on, everything was the same length when I got to the other side. If I had had that section that in that colorway, and it had been a different length than all the other colors when I got to the end of winding on the warp, then I could say that's true. But so I just threw that out there, but I don't think that has anything to do with it. Here we barely see it at all, but we see it poking out in other places. We see it over here, like right up there. Those little shifty little fellers. Yeah. But it's not in that center stripe from before. I don't know. Maybe somebody out there really knows why this is happening. I know it has something to do with set, and we're going to look at the other set where we set them at 28 ends per inch, reduced our tabby width to 16. But it doesn't bother me. I love it. And for the 4-shaft weaver who wants to work with blocks in big color like this, it is a gift from the weaving goddess. It's all over the place there. Crazy, huh? As one of my former staff would have said, cray cray, man. That's Lara. Channeling Lara. Alrighty, here we are with another combination. Working our way through. Alternating colors, small stripes, alternating stripes. A block, B block, one repeat A, one repeat B, over and over and over, just changing my colors as I went. We saw some phenomenal examples of this in the show and tell. All right, what else can we do on straight draw threading? We can add a couple more treadles to our feet down below and weave it in a 2-2 twill. And that's what I did with this piece. So it's 24 ends per inch, 24 picks per inch. My tie up is 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 3 and 4, 1 and 4, which is our nice straight draw twill. And I played with all of the combinations of dark and light that we did in the original color and weave gap on this piece. What if I weave it in plain weave and kind of make it look like log cabin? Yeah, perfect. Dark light, dark light, dark light, dark light, light, dark light, dark light, dark light, dark. Following along on that train of thought, what if I weave it with thick and thin? And we become inspired by rep weave. So it's not total rep, it's not completely warp-faced, but adding the thick and the thin and allowing me to play with blocks like I did back in season 3 when we did that whole rep episode. It looks very much like rep. Barely any shifty fellers in that one. Probably because that fatter weft pushes things apart more. Remember, that's what happens when we use a fat weft in plain weave. All right, now this is the other set, and this set is where we increased the ends per inch to 28 ends per inch. We reduced the weft to 16-2 cotton. Now, we don't have shifty little fellers like we had in the previous batch, but we do have striation in the squares, which we didn't have in the other one. So, you know, we have strong contrast here with the navy as the consistent color behind everything. When there isn't such a strong contrast, none of this, well, all of this shows less. But I still think it's a highly successful color combination and project. So here they all are again. Well, not all of them, 4 of them, woven again with the tighter set and the finer weft. A lot more stripiness in the finished product. So we learned a lot. We learned a ton about turning a draft, summer and winter's relationship to monk's belt, because monk's belt, when it was turned, became summer and winter threading. And then when we took the summer and winter threading and turned it, it became a straight draw threading. Oh my gosh. I think this episode really, really shows all that amazing interconnectivity between all of these structures on 4 shafts. Just doing that turning. One became another, became another. Anyway, fun. And it's a great tool for all you 4 shaft weavers out there who are happy and content with your 4 shafts, and I applaud you wholeheartedly. I truly do. Don't let anybody ever tell you that it's not as good as multiple shaft weaving. Just say, okay, bye, see ya. Anyway, or that it's boring, because it's not. One more to go. Oh, right. My favorite, how could I forget this? M's and O's goes out on a date with Huck and brings color and weave along.